The world's largest passenger jet was supposed to be finished. When Airbus shut down the A380 line in 2021, it felt like the end of an era. 4 engines, 2 full decks, 500 passengers lifting off at once. Aviation had decided it was too big, too expensive, too impractical. And yet, airlines didn't let it die. Emirates kept more than 100 flying. Lufthansa pulled some out of storage. British Airways quietly brought theirs back, which raises a strange question. If the giant is gone, why does the industry suddenly need it again? Because something uncomfortable is happening in the background. Nearly 1,000 large wide-body aircraft will reach retirement age in the 2030s and 2040s. A 380S, Boeing 777-300 ERS, the workhorses that move 350 to 550 people at a time. And here's the part. No one likes to say out loud, nothing currently in production truly replaces them. Not quite. And that's where one airline made a move that might change everything. In November 2025, at the Dubai Air Show, Emirates placed an order for 65 Boeing 7779 aircraft. On paper, it looked like a standard fleet expansion. Big order, big headline. But buried inside the agreement was something far more interesting. Emirates secured the option to convert those aircraft into either a smaller 7778 or a larger, not yet built 77710, a plane that doesn't officially exist. That clause wasn't random. Emirates' leadership has been unusually clear for years. They want bigger aircraft, not more frequency, not smaller jets, bigger ones. And when the chairman says publicly that manufacturers should build larger capacity planes, that's not a casual comment. That's pressure. But this only matters once you understand what's happening at the world's busiest airports. Take London Heathrow. It's capped at around 480,000 annual movements. Frankfurt, Paris, Amsterdam, Zurich. Similar constraints. Many Asian hubs are operating at or near maximum slot capacity. Airlines can't simply add more flights. The runway space isn't there. So if you can't add flights, you add seats. That's exactly what the Airbus A380 did. Emirates configured theirs for roughly 500 passengers. 1 takeoff, 1 landing. Massive volume. It was a blunt solution to a physical limit. Now imagine those aircraft disappearing over the next 10 to 15 years. The Boeing 7779, the largest twin-engine jet currently in development, seats around 426 passengers in a typical 2-class layout. Impressive, but still well short of A380 capacity. A stretched 777-10 could push closer to 460, maybe even 480 seats depending on configuration. Still not equal, but close enough to matter. To replace 600 A380s, Emirates would need roughly mid-60s of a stretched 777 variant. The math works? Barely. And twin-engine jets burn significantly less fuel per seat than 4-engine aircraft. On paper, that makes economic sense. On paper. Because Boeing has a problem. The 777X program, which includes the 777-9, has already been delayed multiple times. The first test flight happened in January 2020. Deliveries were originally expected that same year. Now the timeline has moved to 2027. Billions in additional costs have piled up. Regulatory scrutiny remains intense following the 737 MAX tragedies that led to a global grounding. Launching a 777-10 on top of that? That's not just a stretch, it's a gamble. Technically, it's feasible. Boeing has hinted for years that a longer variant would be straightforward, if demand justified it. The composite wings are already built with folding tips. The GE9X engines produce 110,000 pounds of thrust and have room for more. But stretching the fuselage adds weight. It affects tail strike margins. It complicates engine outperformance during takeoff with 500 people on board. And this is where the story starts to get uncomfortable. Because Boeing doesn't just need demand, it needs stability. The company has been managing financial losses across divisions. Wide-body orders matter more than ever. Emirates alone accounts for a massive portion of 777X commitments. If Emirates pushes hard enough for a 777-10, Boeing would have to listen. Airbus, meanwhile, isn't standing still. At the same Dubai Air Show, Airbus confirmed it is studying a stretched A350-2000, roughly 430 to 450 seats. Leveraging existing certification from the A350-1000 could accelerate approval. In theory, it's a cleaner path. But Emirates has already hinted that the current Rolls-Royce engines may not provide enough thrust for hot and high Middle Eastern operations in a stretched version. A new engine variant would delay everything. And time is the one thing the industry doesn't have much of. Because retirement schedules don't wait. The real question isn't whether airlines want a bigger twin. Some clearly do. The question is who else joins them. U.S. carriers prefer frequency over size, more departures, smaller wide bodies, flexibility. But China's massive hubs and India's rapidly expanding market could change the equation. If those carriers embrace high-capacity strategies, the total market might reach 250 to 350 aircraft over 2 decades. That's enough to justify development, or not quite enough to justify the risk. And this is the pivot point. If Boeing launches the 777-10 after certifying the 777-9, it becomes the closest thing to a modern A380 replacement, delivering 80 to 90% of the capacity at significantly lower operating costs. Not as iconic, not as dramatic, but economically smarter. If Boeing doesn't launch it, the era of ultra-high-capacity aircraft may quietly shrink into history. So the decision now rests on one airline's pressure, one manufacturer's stability, and a ticking retirement clock that no one can stop. The A380 was supposed to be the last giant, but maybe the final giant hasn't flown yet. But to understand what happens next, you have to zoom out. Because this isn't really about one airplane. It's about how the entire system of global air travel is built. For decades, long-haul aviation followed a simple logic. Funnel passengers into mega hubs, fill the largest aircraft possible, and move them in waves across continents. It was efficient, predictable, scalable. The Airbus A380 was designed for exactly that world. But while Airbus was building bigger, Boeing made a different bet. The 787 Dreamliner wasn't about size, it was about range and efficiency. Fly smaller aircraft, more often, directly between cities. Bypass the hub. Avoid congestion. Give passengers non-stop routes instead of connections. For a while, Boeing looked right. Airlines loved flexibility. Routes that couldn't support 500 passengers could suddenly support 250. And fuel burn per seat improved dramatically. The industry slowly shifted toward frequency over size. But then something happened. The biggest hubs didn't get bigger. Heathrow didn't magically add new runways. Frankfurt didn't double capacity. Tokyo didn't expand overnight. Infrastructure lagged behind demand. Passenger numbers kept climbing. Airport slots became more valuable than aircraft themselves. And when slots become scarce, every takeoff has to count. This is where the 777-10 idea becomes more than just a stretch variant. It becomes a pressure valve. Imagine Heathrow in 2035. Hundreds of large aircraft retired. Demand higher than ever. Environmental limits tighter. Regulators unwilling to approve new runways. Airlines facing the same number of slots, but more passengers wanting to travel. What do? You either tell customers no, or you fly more people per slot. That's the tension quietly building in boardrooms right now. And here's the part most people miss. Emirates isn't just buying airplanes, it's shaping the market. With over 100 A380s and hundreds of wide-bodies on order, it operates one of the purest hub models in the world. Dubai works because it concentrates global traffic through a single superconnector. If Emirates commits firmly to a 777-10, not just options, but a real launch order, it sends a signal. To Boeing, to Airbus, to competitors. It says the high-capacity hub model isn't dying, it's evolving. But Boeing has to survive long enough to build it. The 777X program is already one of the most delayed wide-body projects in modern aviation. Certification scrutiny remains intense. Costs have ballooned. Investors are cautious. Every additional development step carries risk. Launching a 777-10 before the 777-9 is fully certified would be reckless. Waiting too long could mean Airbus moves first. The A350-2000 study isn't idle curiosity. It's competitive positioning. And the engine question looms over both. More passengers mean more weight. More weight demands more thrust. More thrust means new certification hurdles. Engine manufacturers can technically increase output, but margins shrink quickly, especially in hot climates like Dubai or Doha, where takeoff performance already pushes limits. A stretched aircraft sounds simple. Add fuselage, adjust systems, done. It's never that simple. Longer fuselages reduce range. They change balance. They increase structural stress. Tail strikes become more likely. Emergency evacuation requirements get harder to meet. And regulators don't approve, almost. Every change compounds complexity. So Boeing faces a fork in the runway. Option 1. Focus entirely on delivering the 777-9 smoothly in 2027, rebuild trust, stabilize finances, and avoid new risk. Option 2. Commit to the 777-10, secure major launch customers, and redefine the upper end of the wide-body market for the next 20 years. Both paths carry danger. But here's what makes this decision different from past aircraft launches. This time, the market might not wait. Those nearly 1,000 retiring wide-bodies won't all vanish overnight. But as they leave service through the 2030s, airlines will replace them. If there's no high-capacity twin available, carriers may instead order more mid-size wide-bodies and increase frequency where possible. And once fleets are set, they stay set for decades.